everyone, my name is Nicole Wolf and I'm a paranormal romance author. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm starting day 3 of my outlining process. Now if you've seen part 1 of my outlining process, and if you haven't, I will have the link below for you to reference. I spent the last 2 days coming up with my brainstorming and my initial scene ideas. And then I put all of that up on my whiteboard. And as I was doing that, I realized that I needed more scenes for my second act. So instead of me going straight back to brainstorming and just trying to force more scenes out of my head, I'm going to be turning to my character profiles and coming up with my backstories for each of my characters, because I noticed that a lot of times as I'm coming up with the histories for the different characters, new scene ideas will just kind of naturally come to me. So that kind of seems to be the way my brain works. So that is what we will be doing today. We will be, I will be working in Scrivener. I use Scrivener for my character profiles, and because I like to use pictures, and I'm going to be putting a lot of my research notes in there. So yeah, let's get this day started. Okay guys, so before I actually get started doing my character profiles, I like to set the scene. Now, at the beginning of my last video, I kind of briefly went over what I need, or what I like to have, and that is, I light my candle. So let's get that lit up. I usually turn my I Love Lucy lamp on low. Anybody that knows me knows that I love Lucy. Some of you youngins might not even know who that is, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And then obviously coffee. This is my new favorite cup. It's a Hocus Pocus cup. Love it. Because it has to do with the morning. It's the morning saying from Hocus Pocus. Oh look, another glorious morning. Makes me sick. Favorite line of that whole movie, because Winnie, I can relate. And then I turn off the big light. Okay, so now I'm all ready. I'm all ready to get my outlining done. This kind of gets me in the mood to be creative. So let's get started with the character profiles. Okay guys, so as you can see, I'm in my Scrivener profile for my new book, which is Kiss of the Arctic, which is the one I'm working on right now. It's the 3rd book in my series, and hopefully you can follow my cursor. Over here, you'll see I have a tab for characters. This automatically shows up as soon as you open a novel file in Scrivener, so you don't have to create this folder. It automatically goes there, which I find super handy. And then you just have to create. If I can click on here, and you can kind of see it kind of I like the there's 3 different boards up here, types of boards you could do where it splits it like this with a line in between each. My favorite, which happens to be the index card one, and then just kind of like an outline format, which personally I think that's boring. So I like the corkboard when I just want like a quick overview. Now over here you'll see there's notes. Over here you'll see there's notes I could put to, if I need like quick reference, if I don't want to put in, click on each one. But I usually have too much in the file for me just to fit on that little index card anyway, so I usually put it in just the regular file. And then over here is where you'll see you could easily get to all your character profiles with one click. And then as you can see, I haven't started doing my scenes yet. That'll be next after I'm done with my character profiles. So usually when I'm coming up with my character profiles, it's not like super complicated as far as, you know, I mean, I saw a lot of character sheets. Some of them get like really detailed, you know, like eye color and hair color and skin complexion and like all that. I find it's easier just to, you know, just to plug in a picture, you know what I mean? It's a lot easier to just do that. Just plug a picture in and there you go. You have a picture to reference. Rather than going through like all that, those little tiny details, you know, like build, you know, weight, height, all that weird stuff. So anyway, I just use a picture. So most of mine is just so I can easily see what this character's role is in this story, because a lot of my characters show up in multiple books. So in some books they're going to be a side character, and in other books they're going to be a main character. So I always have my story role, and then I have what species they are, because I have more than one. Everyone is not human. I write paranormal romance, so I have other species going on in my books. So that's just kind of to let everyone know, like let me know as I'm writing what species they are, so I don't get mixed up. And then age. Mostly this file I use more for jotting down what their history is, like what has occurred in their life before this story takes place, and then quick personality traits. That's so I, you know, as I'm writing, especially in the beginning, like the very first few scenes, I kind of have to reintroduce myself to that character's personality. And this is especially important when you're writing your main characters, because this character, Kayleen, showed up in my previous book, but she wasn't the main character, so I was never writing from her perspective in the last book. So I like to have the personality traits jotted down for me, so that once I do transition into, okay, now I'm writing her story and I'm going to be in her point of view, I can kind of easily reference, okay, what kind of voice is she going to have as she's telling her story. So that's just a quick rundown of the different things that I do for my personal character profiles. Everybody kind of does their character profiles or character sheets a little differently. This is just how I kind of utilize my character sheets and how I put them into Scrivener. Okay guys, so I just got finished doing a bunch of my character profiles, and I was able to put a few more scenes on my board, which I kind of figured would happen. And I just counted them for the first time, actually all my post-its, my scenes, and I actually have 34, which is more than I actually need. I usually only need to start with about 30, 31. Usually because as I'm drafting, more ideas kind of come to me. So, so I have plenty of scenes to start. I know I do. So, I went ahead and I rearranged some of my scenes where I wanted them, and I put in my my individual percentages for each individual plot point that I'm doing. So my inciting incident, I usually like to happen between the 10 and 15% mark. My first plot point, I like to have around the 25% mark, give or take a little bit. And then obviously the rising action starts right after the first plot point ends, really. So I like to have the rising action starting between 25 and 30%, and then the midpoint is right around the 50% mark. Again, it's give or take a few percentages. So anywhere between 45 and 55% is, usually okay, as long as it's close to 50%. And then my second plot point, which is the black moment that we talked about in the last video, I like to have the second plot point, or the black moment, starting between the 75 and the 80% mark, because if I start it much earlier, like if I start it in like the 65 to 70%, then it leaves way too much room left in my Act 3 that I really don't need, because by the time you're getting into your Act 3, you should kind of be really getting ready to get into your climax. So that kind of leaves too much room. So usually between the 75 and 80% mark is good for me, and then that leaves about 20 to 25% for my Act 3, which is usually all I need, because the majority of my Act 3 is usually dealing with my climax. So so once we move into Act 3, I usually have my pre-climax, which is all of the scenes that are leading up to my climax, starting between the 80 and the 85% mark, and then my climax I have starting between the 85 and 90% mark, which usually means that the first scene that I'm doing, because you'll see some of these have more than one scene, especially my climax. My climax has a lot of scenes. So what that really means is my first scene, meaning the first scene that's taking me into my climax, should be starting between the 85 and 90% mark of the whole novel. And the same with the others, like the first scene in Rising Action should be starting at the 25 to 30% mark. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I have 34 posts up here, which means I have plenty of scenes to get started on my first draft. So now what I do, now that I have everything easily organized on my whiteboard, is I have hold on a minute. I have all of my detailed scenes, because you can only fit so much on a post-it note, but I have like more details of each scene in my notebook here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my individual notes for each scene that has the longer description and put it into my Scrivener file for each scene. So that is what I'll be working on next. Okay guys, so as you'll see, I'm back in my Scrivener file, and you'll see that my character profiles are more filled out now, which is mostly their history. That's usually what I need. I actually still need to fill in my personalities for each of them, but I will do that later. Some of these I do know pretty well, so I could easily fill in their personalities. I was more concerned with filling in their histories, because I knew that's what I really needed to figure out. Most of them I have done now, especially my main characters, which is Kayleen, Raoul, and then the antagonist Jackson, who has been around for quite a few books, so which is probably why his history is taking up quite a lot of space. And then some of the others you'll see I still kind of need to figure out, and then other ones I just kind of have a note to look at my other book notes, because they were main characters. Torrin was a main character in book 2, and Charlie was a main character in book 1. So I have like these this length of history for them in their own books notes. So rather than retyping it all again. I just kind of quick put in C Kiss of Fire notes, and I may later down the road just go into their file and then copy and paste it into here, but I didn't do that yet, so that's good enough for me right now. And then these two, you'll see that this is another thing I love about Scrivener. I like that I can plug in, I like to take screenshots of research notes that I found, and for this one, for this character, he is actually based off of Hercules, the Greek myth, where, I mean, he actually is supposed to be Hercules. It's just, you know, he's using his original name rather than his legend name, I guess. And I nicknamed him. So, anyway, so that's why I have that in here. It was kind of for me to be able to reference his legend as I'm writing about him. He's the only one that I really need to do that for as far as characters go, because he's the only one that I have right now that's really based off of an actual character that's already been written about. Everyone else is kind of my own creation. Even Lilith, who is supposed to be a daughter to Hades. I mean, everybody knows who Hades is, you know, god of the underworld. But from what I could see in research, I think the only daughter I don't think that, like, the daughter that I saw wasn't the name of it. It was some other name. And I don't remember if it was a daughter or a wife. All I can think about is Persephone, and I thought that was maybe his wife, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so that's another thing. And then, okay, so now that we're back in here, I'm going to set up my, first I need to go in here, and I could take this out, move, and then I can add, right here's the add button, or you can right click right on the corkboard, because I like the corkboard mode, and then add your folders. You're going to want to add a folder for each chapter, or you can add a folder for each act, or you could just add a text for every scene and then organize it later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have 3 folders for my 3 acts for right now, and then I might break that down into additional folders in each act as I figure out where my chapters are ending and the next one is beginning and things like that. So, because right now I don't know what scenes are going in what chapters. I just have my scenes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my 3 act folders, which I'm just going to do that. There we go. And then just call them Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Okay, and then what you could do is you can go over to this little bar area on the left-hand side and click on your act, and then it'll take you into the folder where there's a clean corkboard, and this is where you're going to add your individual text ones now, which are going to represent your scenes. And all I have to do is really look over at my board here, and I could kind of see how many files I need in each act. So for Act 1, I need 8 scenes. Okay, and I'm not going to title them yet because they don't have titles. Okay, and then in Act 2, I believe I counted them earlier, I need 16 scenes, which actually is much more on point because, like I said, usually Act 1 is 25%, Act 2 is 50%, which, if you do the math, means that there should be twice as many scenes in Act 2 as in Act 1, and 8 times 2 is 16. So far, so good. See, and I thought, wait, do I have to pick Control maybe? Oh, there we go. Oh man. How do I duplicate? See, and I thought, oh, there we go. No. There we go. Duplicate. Haha! See, I figure out new stuff every day. Okay, so that would be, yeah, 4. That's 16. All right, and then my last one, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 10. So I have a few more scenes in my Act 3 than, you know, with 25%, I should only have 8. But, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Act 3 has a lot going on. So it doesn't surprise me that I have a few extra scenes in my Act 3. Okay, so that's 10. So I have all of my scenes in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my notebook, like I said, and actually type in all of my scene descriptions. So, yep, let's get started. Okay guys, so that is going to wrap up day 3 for me. I have a little bit more backstories to write, but I have a feeling that's probably going to happen while I'm drafting my first draft. So I think this is pretty much going to wrap up my outlining process. I have all of my scenes plugged in, and I have most of my character profiles done, especially the ones, my main character ones. You know, the ones that are like really vital to the story. Those are all done. So I'm pretty impressed with myself right now because I actually gave myself until the end of January to finish my outline, and it is only January 23rd. So that means I am an entire week ahead of schedule. Yeah, I'm super impressed with myself right now. So I guess that means that I will be starting my drafting process in the next video, maybe. Make sure to comment below and let me know if these videos are something you like, if you want to see my drafting videos in the future, you know, like the writing vlogs, you know, how writing's going, because, you know, drafting is going to take longer than outlining. I mean, I'm not expecting to write a book in 3 days. That's not happening. So, yeah, make sure to comment below, and I will see everyone in the next video. Okay, bye guys!